trying to create a sustainable, permanent culture. So the reason why permaculture is so valuable is because it's ecology based. So basically we're looking at human ecology and what is fundamental to create a healthy, happy, thriving human self, human community. So food, wonderful start, and now we're building up on that and doing so much more. So being able to connect people and create all sorts of community enterprises and developments which will keep promoting a permanent human culture. So as a start, permaculture has three tenets that we follow, and outside of that it's pretty much open slather. You can do anything within inside that framework. So the first is we got to care for people. So when we're thinking about solutions, because at the end of the day permaculture is just a methodology, a system of coming up with sustainable solutions. So we've got to care for people. Then for people to be cared for, we've got to care for the environment of which people live. So we've got to care for the earth. And then we've got to keep that harmony between people and the earth. So we've got to make sure that the interactions are fair and that the trade and the flow of energy is balanced. And that way, if we follow these three core ethics, these three core tenets of permaculture, the idea is that we can get to a point where humans are back one with ourselves and with our environment, and therefore it is sustainable, everlasting, permanent culture. So that's the exciting bit of permaculture. It pretty much applies to anything, and it's a really simple platform for anyone to kind of jump into and just start applying, because it basically just gives us a set of questions to ask. So those three are the first thing, is like, am I caring for people in what I am doing? Am I caring for myself? Am I caring for my community, friends, wider community, etc.? So that can go on. So there's lots of social permaculture elements, fundamental, social beings. And then after that, basically permaculture teaches us 12 principles. So these 12 principles are basically the strategies that we use. So these strategies apply to absolutely everything that we're doing in life. If you can understand these strategies, then you can have a sustainable business, you can have a sustainable garden, you can have a sustainable family or homestead or anything. So these are completely universal. But basically, the very first thing before we can do anything is we need to observe. We need to do an analysis of the situation, of the issue that we're trying to solve. We don't want to just be acting for no sake at all. So the first principle is observe and interact. We want to observe, we want to take on information, we want to understand the issue that we're trying to solve. We don't want band-aids. Band-aids are not permanent, they are a temporary solution. Permaculture does not say like no to temporary things, because at the end game, we do the steps along the way. So it's amazing. My background is in management. I love change management and cultural change management and cross-cultural relations and everything. That's what I pretty much, what I loved at uni. So permaculture just tapped into that. So I came across permaculture as a business system, not as a growing system. But I grew up playing in creeks, climbing trees, so meshed and amazing. So when you find something good, hang on to it, use it, and just really spoke to me, and it just touched on all the management training, everything. Well, permaculture's got it all in it too. If we just focus on kind of what is a permanent human culture at its core, and we work our way back to where we are and follow the steps, then it is just so liberating, so life-giving, because it's just so simple. We can just do these tiny little steps all along the way, just start thinking, start changing your mindset, and before you know it, like snowball, everything starts to accumulate. Like when we're starting to improve soils, if they're dead and lifeless, if they've got no organic matter, they've got no life in it, all we've got to do is just put a little bit in there, just a little bit of a spark, and it does it all by itself. So that's the joy of the permaculture, is that at the end of the day, it's not really an intensive, laborious process. You can get your head around that you're really responsible for yourself. You don't have to know what a tree knows, that's for the tree to know. We just got to work with them. So it kind of really humbling process, working with them. But very first and foremost, observe, then interact. Then next is that, well, we don't want to do, like I touched on before, we don't want to do work for no reason whatsoever. So you want to obtain a yield. Like if you're a teacher, and if your kids or adults or anyone that you're trying to impart knowledge on has no understanding of what you've just done after you've gone through your process, then you need to change. So permaculture teaches us to be flexible, to be open, to take anything and everything that we can within those kind of tenets that we can do to get to where we need to go, which is that permanent culture. So the end game is always a permanent culture. We don't want to do stuff just for the sake of doing stuff. We really want to be mindful. So we want to accept the feedback. We want to accept the feedback in the system. So we want to do loops. Again, in management, like 360 loop kind of stuff, we want to do that all the time. Permaculture touches on all this, and most people come across permaculture as a growing system, which it is amazing for, but just it's got so much more to offer. And that's what that's what we do, and that's what we want to share, and that's what we want to promote, is that it's beyond just growing. So the other freeing thing that we get from following like a permaculture philosophy is that we don't have the same constraints as an organic grower. You need to use organic inputs.
There's no shade for
permaculture. We never signed an agreement to say that we're not going to use inorganic. We just signed an agreement that we're going to care for people, care for the earth, and make sure that it's a fair share. So everything is situational. So you have the complete freedom to go multi-discipline, cross-functional teams, everything to be able to create that end vision. So as long as your analysis checks out, your process checks out, that it's being consistent and being ethical, then you're following permaculture and you're following laws. So it's a much more freeing. We can go from the organic growers and we can grab elements of what they're doing and apply it. And biodynamic growers, we can grab from everywhere. So this is that complete freedom and liberation that we get in working with permaculture. It is not a system to constrain us. It's a system that really opens us up to all the potential and all the possibility that is out there. So yeah, it's a really amazing system. So we've touched on observe and interact. We want to obtain a yield. We want to accept feedback. It's 12. We're going to keep going through. So catch and store energy. And you can kind of see as we move through these principles, they're so all overlapping. They're all connected. You can't. It's like one of those star drawings where every point connects with every other point. And that's the other beautiful thing, is that like whenever you're doing risk management or any kind of wanting to have a sure foundations, the more connections that you can put in, the more links that you can create in the system, the more sustainable that system is, the more resilient that system is. So by constantly connecting dots and constantly looking for cooperation instead of competing and trying to like knock out our elements, like embracing them. So we do not want to eradicate. With nature, we do not like the idea of just wiping something off the face of the earth. We want to understand where its place is, how it is fitting in, and what is it telling us, what is it that we can learn from it, and what can we then, how can we use it to then further our own understanding, our own development. So a lot of people will ask me about like pest control and sick plants, and it feels a lot of time that they're just wanting, like, can they just hit it with something, knock it out, solve the problem, move on. They're wanting that band-aid. And by doing the band-aid, it's going to be a never-ending input. You're going to constantly be having to put on band-aids over these issues that are constantly going to keep on arising. But if you can understand that, those aphids are actually food for the lady beetles. If you don't have them, you're not going to have lady beetles. By planting your plants all in a straight line, you are just now working for, a herbivore or whatever it is that is just, you're just planting lunch because you're making it really easy for you. So we want to look at what nature is doing and why it is doing it. It does not happen just by coincidence. Things are happening all the time, and the natural, cycles, the water cycles, the soil cycle, the nitrogen cycle, all these things are they're kind of fixed. We know how they work, and if we can work within these natural cycles, then you really can't go wrong. But it's understanding our place in these cycles and how these cycles are connecting all the other elements together, which then creates that freedom that we have in permaculture of The only limitation is your imagination. There is no such thing as problems, there's only solutions. So if you can start to change your mindset around from everything being an issue or a hassle or a problem into everything being a solution that's just waiting to be discovered, then again, it's really freeing. You are more open to the potential and the opportunity. And that's what we want to get at, that people that following their love and their passion, we are all so unique that if we can tap into that uniqueness of each and every one of us and connect those dots, we don't have to do everything. We don't all have to be accountants, thank God. Value renewable resources. So the nice examples is, when it's raining, plant out. When it's sunny, dry your food. So work with those natural flows and those natural cycles. Don't try and bring in inputs that are not already naturally there wherever possible. Like if you're trying to dry on wet, cool days, you're going to use so much more energy, so much more power, which you could then utilize on something else. So in management, this is opportunity cost. So it's the cost of doing one thing over the cost of doing another thing, and you've got to balance that out. And so permaculture teaches us that we always want to value that renewable resource first and foremost. We want to do things when it is situationally appropriate and not just because we want to do it. So it teaches us patience. It teaches us to actually connect in a meaningful way to get the best results possible. So produce no waste. So again, this is like a mindset. So anyone familiar with like human manure? So one of our biggest things of waste, right? We're all doing it every single day, but this is really an asset. We can grow amazing soils and amazing plants with what we consider to be waste. So, we just follow that concept on even more, that I grew up in needing to be constantly active, constantly kind of trying to achieve something, constantly driving in like competition. Whereas really what I needed to do was slow down. I needed to take time for myself and actually understand why I was driven to do certain processes and certain tasks. So it wasn't a waste to actually be still for a moment, to take the time to reflect. It was not a waste, which went against kind of what I was taught to do. But being able to actually think and have a clear mind is not a waste. Yet sometimes we feel the pressure that we constantly got to be in action, we constantly got to do something. Well, again, if you're not obtaining a yield, if you're not working together, if you're not utilizing renewable resources and that kind of stuff, you're really pushing up against a wall that doesn't need to be there. It's a wall of our own creating. So that's kind of that principle. Change your perspective. Nothing is waste. So patterns to details. So permaculture systems or just modern solutions are increasingly more complex. We are understanding more and more about the world in which we live, and by doing so we are getting more and more information. So it's almost like this information overload. Where on earth do we start? And so permaculture teaches us to step back, look at the overall patterns, the overall shapes that is going on all around us without observing and then interacting, and then to utilize them to then get into the nitty-gritty, into the little detail work that we need to do. So nature doesn't do straight lines, and it's for good reason. So we want to tap into why nature is not doing any of these straight lines, which is clear. Straight lines, there's a lot of energy waste in a straight line. So we want to tap into that energy flow. So when we're doing design work, or when we're doing like kind of business planning, or any kind of strategies, we want to understand the kind of general, big picture ideas. And by understanding these bigger, general ideas, it'll give us a much healthier, much more concrete understanding of where the little elements need to go and how the little elements interact. If we start going into trying to design the little elements first, it is just way too much. Everything interconnects. You will not get your head around it. But if we can just go nice and simple, you know, like we use zoning in permaculture, you know, if frequency rule, if we're there really often, well then the task that we're doing really often should be there where we are. That is kind of the natural kind of progression of while we're there. So we may as well put there something that is going to be utilised and that we can actually apply and do while we're there. So we use zoning, so zone 0 kind of close to the house, zone 1 using every kind of day, zone 2 every week, and etc, 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 out to zone 5, which would be a couple times a year maybe a little bit more. But we want to work smart, not hard. Next one, integrate rather than segregate. So we want to connect dots. The more that we can connect dots, so we do kind of behavioural patterns and habit patterns, biology analysis, whatever it is that we're doing, but we want to understand what is the fundamental needs of each element. And then we want to join elements together that have those same fundamental needs. So if you need sun for solar power, and your plants also need sun, so we need to think of them together and put them both into sunny spots. So in planning the location for these things, they should be similarly placed. Full sun plants, solar panels, both need full sun. However, solar panels can go on a roof and utilise the full sun on the roof. So can green roofs and green lawns. So there's an opportunity there where we can learn from both of these completely diverse, different tools, techniques, or products. The thing is like chickens is one that you probably see that is in the textbook, and it's like, what's the behaviour of this element? What's the requirements? Well, it needs soil, needs water, needs food. Well, let's connect that up with what it needs. So let's connect up a chicken coop with a veggie garden that needs to be scratched and turned, because the veggie garden needs the aeration that a chicken provides. It needs the manure that the chicken provides. So we want to link up as many elements as we possibly can. So one, understanding what the element is and what it actually needs to function appropriately, and then trying to join the dots with these and create overlaps between them. So this is that resilience. We're going to get this resilience in the system. And two, by doing this, we don't have to work it. Like if we put a solar panel in a nice sunny spot where it's nice and open and we're not going to have to constantly prune, then we're not going to have to get little engines and motors to have to constantly track suns and put in more input. So the idea is that we want to actually step back and we want to let things do what they need to do without our constant intervention. If we need to constantly intervene, well then we better be getting a good yield to make it worthwhile for that constant intervention. We don't just want to act for act's sake. We work really smart. So small and slow solutions. So it takes time to kind of understand yourself, for one. It takes time to understand the community. It takes time to understand the environment that we're in. And if we all just run in and jump in and mimic just because someone else is doing without actually understanding where we are, we can make a lot of mistakes. So by acting small and doing things nice and slow, we're going to get a better outcome. We're going to be able to learn on the go, and we're going to maximize those resources, and we're probably not going to be tempted to do these band-aid solutions. So giving yourself that time to work up to a garden instead of wanting it that instant gratification, and that patience. Like, so if we're buying a tree, if we're buying an established mature fruiting tree, a lot of the time it's going to take the exact same amount of time as a seedling or as a small plant to establish. That tree is going to go into shock, and it's going to take a lot of TLC to get it back up to where it could be, as opposed to starting with a tiny little tube stock or something which doesn't have that same commitment to the leaves or the roots that it has to maintain. and so it can grow off a lot faster. So a lot of times it seems counterintuitive, but when you break it down, acting slow and small will get you there faster in the end. Crazy, but yeah. Think about it. So use and value diversity. So just really quickly, thank God we're not all accountants. Use people who love numbers. Use people who have a passion for art, for that, for what, like it's not really using if you're tapping into something that is their nature, is their being. If we can tap into that essence, whether it's a plant, a bird, or a human, or whatever it is, if we can actually give people fulfillment in what it is that they love to do, that's not using, that's not abusing. That is really respecting, that is loving, that is caring, that is being really compassionate to them if you can actually give them that space to do what they love to do. So tap into that. Don't feel bad about not wanting to do every single thing for yourself. You have an understanding of things, but you need to go where you need to go. And only you can make that choice, but that's across the board there. Again, these principles really general, really broad, but we can apply them to absolutely every single situation or any kind of problem. Yeah, any problem basically. Use edges and value margins. So this principle is talking about where two worlds meet, we're getting the benefits of both. So where the ocean meets the land, we're getting not only sea creatures, but we're also getting dune species and land species incoming. So therefore, on that edge, on that margin, is the diversity and the abundance that you will find nowhere else. You're getting the best of two worlds. So the more that we can create edges, the more that we can value these margins and see them for what they are, which is a crossing over of two worlds, where we then get the benefits of those two worlds. By kind of mimicking that and creating margins, you will get more, and you'll get more naturally. So it's not, again, permaculture, we're not an abusive, it's not an abusive thing, it's a very loving, very ethical system. So we're not looking at it from what we can get out of it, we're looking at it from very holistic. But valuing edges and margins, so the intersecting of two worlds. So in management, cross-cultural teams would be an example of valuing margins. So creatively use and respond to change. So change is constant, never-ending. Every single breath you take is a change. So what if you're going to fight it? You're up for a steep learning curve. So let's just go with the flow. Let's just go with that change, embrace it. You can only control, your own body and your own mind. Outside of that, you really have very, very little control. So do what is right for yourself and put the right foot forward. But at the end of the day, be able to be flexible. If you can be flexible, if you are not set, if you are not so attached to any one idea or any one solution, then you will see all the possibilities, and therefore you have a much greater chance of hitting on that solution that is suitable for your situation. So it touches back on that, organic gardening versus permaculture. Organic gardening is very much have to use organics. Permaculture is very much we just have to look after people, the earth, and do a fair share. So if that means that if we have to nuke a place because it's just completely been destroyed, to regen it, and we've got the resources to do it, and our analysis shows that within 1 year after putting down this stuff, we can get it back up to this amazing system, which we can do with a lot of natural environments. We can put down pretty nasty stuff, but we got bioremediation. We can then shove back in the inoculants, we can shove back the organic matter, and we can get all the trees back in. We got the resources. We can go plant millions of trees with tractors and whatever else. So if you can do that analysis and you can see what you're getting at, then by all means, why would you spend 20, 50 years trying to clear, cut down where you can go in, nuke it, start again? I'm not saying, again, everything's situational, that is not going to apply to a lot of situations, but if it does apply, then you should feel free and you should feel comfortable in knowing that it is appropriate. And if you have that inner kind of, you've done it, you're caring for people, you're caring for the earth, you're creating that fair share, then you shouldn't be limiting yourself. To be open. And that's the 12 principles of permaculture. And so if we can apply that to everything that we do in life, well then you will start to create a personal culture of success family culture of success, community culture of success. Success being that if you're here and happy and thriving when everyone else is not, well then that's success. It's not about money, it's not about like, external rewards. The reward is being within. So, thank you all for listening, and any questions?
Based, Josh?
In Limba. Yeah, just off the highway. Yeah. And we've got a community group off Barbie Island Road as well. We meet up on site and chat and connect. And we've got plans in the ground, but we want to create a community. We want to have friendships. We want to develop social groups, businesses. We want to be able to sustain ourselves, provide shelter, food. Yeah, so the first Saturday every month in the afternoon, 2:30 till 5:30, is like a consistent meeting. But then when you become a member, basically that site is yours to use. Come in the middle of the night and stargaze. It's a place. So this is off Barbie Island Road in Permaculture, in between the horse training and the strawberry farm. Yeah, so 5 minutes out of CBD of Permaculture, on the way to Ride. So very close. Yeah. I'm really trying to foster a community. So there's we don't have any kind of direction except for that we want people to connect. And we want like-minded people. We want people that we can trust, people that we can have fun with. So just as like friends, well, we want a community of friends. We want a diversity of ages. We want, for all young people to old people, we want experience. Yeah, we want a community. And guys, enjoy. Awesome. Thank you.